How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mail and Hobby Talk, episode 17. And yeah, we're going to be going into the eBay and PSA announcement shortly. So we will get to that. I do have a lot to cover today, though. We have a lot of mail to go over. But I just wanted to start it off real quick with a recent episode of Inside the Hobby that I was on, episode 7. And if you haven't heard enough about Kurt's Card Care, we do talk about that there. We do talk about PSA partnering with Fanatics Live and kind of what that means for the collectors out there. We go over a little bit of the 90s greening of like chrome and finest and stuff. So it's a fun episode. I will link to it below. Wanted to point that out before we get into it. But yes, let's go ahead and first start out with some mail because yeah, I do have quite a bit. This is an accumulation of probably, I don't know, 6 months. I went over this in my last Mail and Hobby Talk. I did take a little bit of a break from like YouTube and social media and stuff. So stuff has been piling up. I saved a lot of it for this episode. We went over only about half of it last time. So let's just go ahead and get started there. I'm going to go over some of my Gary Harris stuff. I don't want to lose anybody here, but I think I got some cool cards that you would appreciate. But yes, we will get into topics soon enough. I'm trying to do a little bit more relevant topics in these Mail and Hobby Talks, or just like more recent topics or whatever. I'm not necessarily trying to be a news channel or anything, but it's always fun to talk about stuff that interests me. But anyway, let's get into some Gary Harris cards. So I did pick up this Opulence card out of 1920 Opulence, and this is like considered a pretty high-end set. I think they're still doing these. I don't know. I haven't really paid too much attention, but just kind of cool to get one out of that. I do believe these are numbered, out of 25. They did have like patch autos as well, which I may try to chase. I think Harris maybe has a patch auto. I'm not quite sure, but this was like either a redemption replacement or like probably a points card would be my guess, but kind of cool pickup for, I don't know, probably $5 or something. Next up, this one I'm really excited about. So this is the NT Colossal Patch Auto, and this one's out of 1819 NT. Just spectacular, like, patch there. So I have another one of these. The patch is pretty decent, but just not on the same level of this. And I did buy this for like from an overseas seller. Took, I don't know, maybe a good month to get here, but definitely worth it. So I paid like $15 to ship this. Probably bought the card for $30, I think, and paid like $15 to ship it, which is kind of costly, but definitely worth it. Really love that card. I've got a Flawless, and this is out of 1920. This is the last year that they had Harris in a Nuggets uniform. So I pick these up when I can, but what's extra cool about this one is its jersey number. As you can see, 14 out of 25. I do try to go after jersey number cards for Harris when I can. It's just kind of a fun chase, you know, but nice patch on that one as well. And we have this Immaculate Acetate. And so these were actually numbered up to the jersey number. This one is not jersey number. I did actually see that one pop up maybe like a month ago. And sadly, I forgot to snipe bid it. Oops. But anyway, this is, I like this card as well. This is out of 1718 Immaculate. And it actually features like a warm-up patch. So back then they were acquired like a bunch of Nuggets warm-up jerseys, and they used it for, I think, 1718 and 1819. But anyway, it's cool. I've seen a lot of one-color patch, quote-unquote patches from that time period. So to get one that's two colors, cool. Well, three color, I guess, if you count the black. Next up, we got Immaculate Patch Auto from his time. He's currently playing with the Magic, of course. But I believe this is a Nuggets patch. We'll look at the next one as well. These were out of 21, 22 Immaculate. And now the reason I think it's a Nuggets patch is because you can see this card here I have. So this is the out of 49 version. This is the out of 10 variation, which I think the difference is just that hollow foil. Like you see on the out of 10 version here, it's got the actual like rainbow hollow foil. This one just has regular gold foil. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Nuggets patch. I'm still picking up Harris though, you know, when they eventually move on to Magic jerseys that they're using. I'll probably pick those up as well. And this one I'm really actually excited about. And you may look at it and go, oh, it's just a college card, but it is jersey number. And what's cool about this card that I thought was neat, this is this when he was showing him on the Spartans, right? Who he played before prior to coming to Denver. But this is SP Authentic from his rookie season 14-15. But I just like the design of this card. It does have this like green foil as well. If I can even get that to like show up on the camera. But anyway, I thought it was a cool color match, and the fact that it's jersey numbered, especially on these like higher print runs, is always kind of fun to find. And I don't know, probably $10 for this card, but I thought it was a really cool addition. We've got this one that I was able to find recently. Actually, this is a more recent pickup. This is the 101 rookie swatch out of Select from 14-15. Sadly, it's just a one color patch, and it is actually a patch. I believe Kyle from Wax Museum, I showed this one to him, and he pointed out that I was saying it was a napkin. Now that would be just a regular part of the jersey. Now this one did come from like the nameplate or most likely, so it is technically a patch, but kind of disappointing that it's only one color. I do have another one of these rookie swatches. I think it might even be the orange or something, where it's a much better patch. So if I was so inclined, maybe I would become a patch swapper and swap that out, but probably won't be doing that. But yeah, just cool to have the 101 of that from that rookie season for him. And then last up for Harris, I have this 14-15 Gold Standard, which I always like Gold Standard. They weren't ever really my favorite cards, but these triple patch ones were nice on card. And we have some fairly decent like patches in there. All player one, of course, but still kind of cool. Yeah, Gold Standard was nice. The sticker autos that they started coming out in later years is kind of what drew me away from them, but still cool cards. All right, we're going to get into the PSA eBay agreement announcement here. So for those of you not familiar, if you're on any social media platform, I'm sure you've already heard of this. But yeah, eBay does enter into an agreement with collectors / PSA and acquires Goldin. So really, this is a monopolistic move, plain and simple. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Two of the biggest names in the collectibles space at this moment being eBay and PSA, of course, are collectors who owns PSA and Goldin. Now, what does this consolidation mean? The margins may be getting tighter. That could be one possible reason. Who knows? That's just speculation on my part. But if you think about it, like Goldin and collectors, they were probably looking to offload a lot of these lower end card sales that they're doing now. They're doing like weekly auctions, I believe. And that's a good move for them because they can offload a lot of that lower end stuff over to eBay, where it probably is going to sell better anyway. And for eBay, they can now capture more of the high-end market. So if you look at Goldin auctions, they're auctioning off a lot of high-end cards quite frequently, so they can capture more of that market that was more dominated by like the auction houses in the past couple of years, especially during like the pandemic boom and whatnot. But really, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about what this means for a collector, because you're going to hear this news from all different sorts of people. I try to focus more on my channel and like collectors because I'm mainly one myself. I don't do a lot of flipping. I don't do a lot of grading, to be honest. This is probably good for you if you do grade, because it probably means with the partnership, and we'll have to see how this plays out, but you could potentially buy a card off eBay, not even have to ship it to yourself, get it graded, get it stored in the vault, because it sounds like these vaults are going to be kind of merged. I don't know if they'll, let's see, eBay is also selling eBay Vault to collectors. So collectors will then acquire the eBay Vault. So anything in your eBay Vault could potentially go in and get graded by PSA. I mean, that's at least the thought there from some of the comments that I've seen thus far. So in that respect, sure, if you're like into grading cards and stuff, this might make it easier. I can see that kind of being a problem if you buy raw cards though and have them in the vault, because you're not going to actually be able to see the condition of the card very well. You're not going to see it in hand. We'll see how it plays out, but regardless, that's maybe one side of it for y'all that are more integrating cards. That's not necessarily me. So I was thinking about like, how does this benefit me as a collector, if it even does? I think the added benefit would be some of these Goldin auctions that we haven't seen are now going to be on eBay. I don't myself use Goldin. I haven't used Goldin. So to have that come over to eBay could be nice. And maybe we're going to have a little bit more saturation in that kind of lower end space with those auctions being dumped. I honestly don't know how many low end auctions Goldin was really doing, so it may not have that big of an impact. But you get more cards on the platform, better for collectors. More saturation can actually be better in some regards because we're going to get those cards for a little bit cheaper potentially. So all things to look at from the collector side of it. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about this. So I just wanted to kind of throw out my ideas about it, how it could potentially be good for us as collectors. All right, let's get back to some mail, and we're going to go over non-sports next. So I've actually, in several of my last mail and hobby talks, the last one especially, I've gone over this. I have been going after a lot of non-sports. I'm a big 90s collector, and that space has just gotten so blown out recently that I had to find something else to kind of dive into. So actually the past year, or maybe even 2 years at this point, I've been going after a lot of non-sports cards. There's just a lot out there, and prices aren't being hyped up. They're not being pumped up. A lot of these 90s cards that I still need, I just had to put the brakes on. They're just getting to be too expensive and just not worth it in my opinion. So I've actually gone more into the 2000 side. We'll see that a little bit here in my sports card section. But yeah, we'll go over some non-sports. I'll quit talking. I'm going to put the little rant image we have on here because yeah, that was a little bit of a rant. But anyway, yeah, I have gone into non-sports cards. I do go after Masters of the Universe / He-Man stuff, and I found this, and this is really cool. So this is an Argentina release, but it's all the action figures on these. They're really close to like a normal size card. They're a little bit smaller, like if you compare it to like this Garbage Pail Kid. Well, you know what? They're actually pretty close. Maybe a little bit. They're not as wide. I don't know, but anyway, they'll fit great in a binder. So I thought this was really cool because it's all of the action figures from back in the day, of which I owned plenty of these. I didn't own everything, of course, because there's quite a few as we go through here. But even though it is a Argentinian release, they do have all of the names and Masters of the Universe in English, so you can tell exactly what you're looking at. But yeah, just kind of cool. And these are going into a binder. Really cool find, I thought. And then next up from Masters of the Universe, I just have this left here. It's not particularly cards, but I do go after these. These came out of vending machines back in the day. So I have like a page or two just dedicated to these vending machine stickers, and they fit really well in like a binder pocket. So kind of fun to go after. And before we get into the vintage non-sports stuff, I picked up this David Duchovny auto from Leaf. So I have been wanting a David Duchovny auto. I do want to go after. Upper Deck had a release of X-Files cards a couple years back where he had an auto with his like a photo of him on the X-Files. I've shown off some of those. I can't even remember the release at this point. I have a Gillian Anderson, Chris Carter, and a couple other characters. Like to get one from that release. They generally go over $200, and that's kind of my cap for cards nowadays. I like to joke that now $200 back in the day, and this is I'm only talking about 5-6 years ago or whatever, you had $200 to spend, you could be almost considered like a high-end collector. Nowadays you're like a low-end collector with all these crazy prices. But regardless, try to cap myself at like $200 for any one purchase. Next up, these are really cool. These are the Leaders cards from Kenny Brothers Cigarettes, which 1880s. I don't know the exact dates on these that they came out, but what's cool about this set in particular is they had a lot of women represented on the card. So if you look at, this is like Martha Washington, right? If you look at the back of the cards, they had quite a few. Well, that one's kind of torn up, but here you go. So not only, you know, famous men like George Washington and Ulysses Grant, and I think they even had Julius Caesar and some names like that. They had a lot of women featured on that. So these are 3 cards that I picked up from that set. Louisa, Germany, and Patty. I won't claim to know these other 2, but obviously Martha Washington was kind of cool there. And eventually I'll probably try to put this set together. It does get a little bit more expensive when you start getting into like George Washington and stuff. I was able to grab this General Skobeloff though for like $10. Pretty cool. And these are all lithograph cards. So if you're not super familiar with lithograph, they printed them, the colors one at a time. Just really kind of unique printing back then. And you can, it probably doesn't come through on camera, but they are really nice and beautiful colors on here. And the process to actually print these was quite involved. So I probably will be going after more 1800s cards because you see some cool stuff that shows up for relatively cheap. But it wouldn't be a Mail and Hobby Talk if we didn't go over some Royal Bingles men and women of history cards, which I am going after the set. Now, this is a cool little lot, and the fact that they're all trimmed. So as you can see, like a regular card has some decent borders here. Now this lot that I picked up is all trimmed. You can see somebody trimmed it down to better fit, like, and there's not as much borders, so not worth as much, but kind of cool just to grab it, and I'll show you why. Got Christopher Columbus right here, which is really cool to begin with. But also in this lot is a William Penn. We've got Betsy Ross, the creator of the flag there, the first flag. George Washington, which by itself, this card's like $100 plus card, trimmed, so, you know, is what it is. But I thought it was cool. They're authentic, but altered. So maybe I need to put some Kurt's Card Care on there and see if I can restore the borders. Next up, we got just a bunch of them that I've acquired over, like I said, these last 6 months or so. Standouts, we'll just kind of go over those. William Shakespeare, really cool one there. And these do, of course, have like a little blurb about them on the back, which I always thought was neat. Stonewall Jackson, this can be a pricey one, $50 range, maybe plus. I got it for less than that because it's got this writing on it. Somebody wrote 8A, which I'm not sure what that means, to be honest. But I was able to grab it for cheaper because of that. Let's see. So we got Joan of Arc. It's pretty awesome. And I've gone over this before, but I like these old cards where they're like beat up. They got creases. They've got like paper missing. As long as it doesn't distract, it just shows like somebody collected these and had fun, you know. Not everything has to be perfect, you know. Maybe eventually upgrade this one since it's got a big old crease through Ulysses S. Grant there, former president. It's got a big crease through him, but, you know, again, I was able to pick it up for cheaper. There's a non-trimmed Betsy Ross, James Watt, Robert Fulton. These ones are kind of interesting because it does show that, like, the printing technology back then, you can see this one is more red and this one is more orange. And I believe, unless these are exposed to light and discolored over time, it's probably just due to the printing technology wasn't up to par then. So you can get variations like that, which is kind of cool. Just a couple more to show. This is kind of a bigger one from the set. This is Sitting Bull, one of the Indian chiefs, more known Indian chiefs, I guess. I do think that somebody, like, I don't know, maybe colored this bottom. It could just be very worn. I don't know. It's going in a binder. It doesn't bother me too much, but I did get this one, buy it now for like, I I think like 25 bucks, which is great because they're usually at least double that. And once again, it's going in a binder, so all good for my purposes. And last up in this lot is these 1910s Murad 10 that I found. And what I have in here, and so I bought the 10 separately, but I'm storing, excuse me, my Murad cards in here. These are some of the earliest basketball cards. And so this is, 1910s time period. Now, is the 10 actually where these cards came out of? I don't know, but it is pretty period specific. The seller had mentioned this is the 1910s, around the 1910s when this 10 is from. So I've got the Northwestern card. I've got the Luther College. These are all college cards, right? But there's some of the earliest known like basketball cards, Xavier, and I've got this University of Colorado. Let's see. I'm not even sure what this is. Some kind of like track and field or something like that, probably. But yeah, just thought it was like a cool little item, and I can store these in there. I may grab some other, like they have like swimming and track and all that kind of stuff that you can get for fairly cheap. The basketball can get a little bit expensive, so I may be done with basketball unless I can find like the Williams College one, which I think many people consider to be like the first basketball card. But we'll see. And last up for non-sports, I have a number of graded Garbage Pail Kids cards. Now, you'll watch my last Mail Hobby Talk. I am going after these, not really focusing on the grade so much, but more or less if they're centered. And a lot of the graded ones end up being centered because a lot of the ones you find raw, the ones that I collected, the ones that I have in my full original series collection binders, like super off-centered. So I just thought it'd be fun to go after like centered ones. Again, the grade doesn't really matter on these as much as the centering to me personally. So I've got Dirty Harry and Rob Slob here, 52A and B. We've got Nutty Nicole, Marty Mouthful, Messy Tessie, that's a classic. And then A and B variations here as well for 42A. This is first card of second series. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. These are all second series. I went over first series in my last Mail Hobby Talk if you are interested. But yeah, card 42A, card 42B, Patty Putty, and Mug and Megan. All right, let's jump back over to the next topic. And we've got Darren Rovell's Collect, which I guess this is going to be a media platform for collectibles. I think you're dealing with like sports cards or just collectibles in general. Yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting. Now, what I thought was most interesting when I watched this was, as you can see on screen here, he's saying that they are going to be the hobby watchdogs. And we all know how that turned out the last time somebody claimed to be a hobby watchdog, which, actually, interestingly enough, Darren Rovell himself, if you remember the whole Juan Garcia card porn incident, he was one of the ones that exposed that one to the larger public. I mean, there was smaller channels like Sports and Sports Card Radio and things that had gone over that whole thing, but he did expose it to the broader community. But it's kind of odd, the whole claim of being a hobby, quote unquote, watchdog. I don't know if you need to do that. I think you do it from the reporting aspect. Just cover it. Just talk about it. Don't claim that you're going to be a hobby watchdog. I see a problem with that, and I'll tell you why. Is because he launches this collectible site with this large $400 million backing. Now, that just shows me that there's probably some investors involved that may be involved with other companies. Maybe they even came from some collectibles companies that exist right now. That just means that you're not going to be able to talk about those people. You're not going to be completely unbiased. Likely. I mean, this is just speculation on my part, of course, but you're likely going to have to kind of close your mouth on certain topics because you've gotten investor money or you have ties to other people in the industry. We know Darren Rovell does have ties to other like companies and in the industry itself. So I don't know, just something interesting to think about. I honestly think that this might turn into another like high-end sale pump site. What I mean by that is like just reporting on these high auction sales and stuff, which does get clicks and views, and eventually a lot of these media outlet type deals eventually turn into, it seems. But we'll see. I'll give it a chance. I will check out some of the stuff that they're coming out with when, well, I guess they're already doing articles and whatnot, but I'll give it a chance. But yeah, who knows? I can just see that turning into something else sooner rather than later, right? All right, let's get back into mail. We're going to go over sports. Okay, so as I kind of mentioned, I've been going after more 2000s era stuff. Now that 90s have gotten a little bit blown out of proportion, I feel like they're just too expensive right now. That's just my take on it. I think there's a lot in the 2000s era that you can pick up that's still cool. So first up, we do have this 0102 Essential Credentials Future of Paul Pierce that did have like a little jersey swatch. And now these aren't like the most sought after Essential Credentials. The 90s are more sought after, but those are just, I don't know, they're blown out at this point. I was able to pick this one up for a decent price that I thought was reasonable in the, I want to say like $30 or $40 range. It is numbered, you can see on the back here, out of 57, so they were still numbered. I don't think they did I think they only did the Future this season. I may be wrong about that, but kind of cool that they included a little jersey swatch in there. I thought that was neat. So that's a cool pickup. I picked up 3 rookies here from 07, 08 Topps Chrome, and these are the X Factors. I do go after Topps Chrome and Finest rookies from like the 90s through the 2000s, and just any rookies in general. I pick up graded cards too as well, but most of mine are raw and I have them in a binder. I've always been like a rookie collector, and I actually continued the trend into Prism when Prism was released, but I sold off a lot of that stuff during the pandemic. Stuff like this was not hyped during the pandemic, so it didn't need to sell any of this stuff, but I did keep like the bigger cards that I had. But yeah, you know, we've got Jason Smith, Daquan Cook, Carl Landry. So some of these guys had okay careers and stuff like that, but just to be able to grab these cards, probably roughly around $10 a piece, is cool. They've been going on the binder. Next up, we got more of what I'm going after nowadays that is not hyped up anymore. So I kind of wait until the hype dies down. So we got a Compazzo NT RPA here from 2021. Well past being hyped. So I gave it a couple years, which is I'm doing in general now, just be honest. I love to pick up RPAs. And this one, unfortunately, I went back and forth on it because it's one of these not associated with any specific player, Dick's Sporting Goods patches, most likely. But yeah, I got this like in the $50 range, I think. So cool patch on there regardless. And I do try to pick up NT RPAs for all Nuggets rookies, but more recently I have been waiting a number of years to grab them just because it financially ends up being in my favor a bit. We do have this really awesome Upper Deck black patch, quad, I guess you call it a quad patch out of 25 of Carmelo Anthony. And this is from the 08-09, I believe. Really awesome card. Really happy to have picked that one up. I think I picked this one and the next one here. This is Ultimate Collection, little dual patch. I want to say this one, yeah, this is 07-08. But yeah, the 2 cards that I picked up, really cool. Carmelo Anthony. I wasn't really collecting back then as much, actually really much at all during the 2000s. So it is cool to go back and grab that stuff. Like I said, I'm mainly a 90s collector, but I have found going back to 2000s, you can find a lot of cool stuff that's not like overly hyped and expensive, more or less is what it comes down to. This is a 90s pickup though. I got this one in a trade from a buddy of mine who lives here in Colorado. this is the co-signers. I think this is 97, 98 Stadium Club. But yeah, it's got Hakeem and Tim Hardaway on the back. Really cool card. These co-signers are great cards. Really happy to have picked that one up. One of the few 90s cards you'll see that I picked up recently. But I do still go after modern when I can find them for cheap. So this one is Contiguous Caldwell Pope from last year's Prism 22, 23. This is the black gold. I do put my sets together of silvers and golds, but occasionally I'll just throw like a small snipe bid on these like black golds. They're pretty cool. Would like to get just the regular gold variation of this. It's just, again, I don't know. Maybe it's just me being used to not paying that much for this stuff, but I just feel like a lot of these, especially rookies, man, like the gold variations are just going for so much. I just can't justify spending that much on them. But yeah, get them when I can. This is really cool. So this is, I think this is it's either 99, I think it's 99, 2000. It might be 98, 99. I'm not quite sure, but this is the double featured dual refractor of Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Came out in Finest that year. And they had a base card of this, non-refractor, but then it would get tougher as you get a refractor side. So there's a card that just has Tim Duncan as a refractor. There's a card that just has the David Robinson as a refractor on one side, but to find the dual refractor one is pretty tough. And especially it's got the coating on it, which those of you who know me, I don't like to take the coating off. I love them with the coating. So that was a really cool find. Great card there. And another Duncan card. And I haven't picked up too much Duncan recently because it's just, he's gotten a little bit more expensive, or at least that I'm prepared to pay. But this is a really cool one out of SP Game Used from 07, 08 is when this is from. A little patch there. This one I think is numbered at 25. Kind of a cool pickup there. And really great pickups here. So a guy on Instagram messaged me about these two that he had. He actually had both of these. This is super awesome. I picked them up at the same time. These are the Bullion brand out of 1314 Gold Standard tag. So these were tag patches that they had. And this one is the 1 out of 2. And this one is the 2 out of 2. So if you watched my last Mail and Hobby Talk, I finally found the Gallinari, or finally acquired the Gallinari. I'd seen that. So I don't remember if it was the 2 out of 2 or 1 out of 2. But I had seen it on eBay for years, and then finally was able to grab it in an auction after somebody gridded it and surprisingly put an auto on it, which I'll tell you a little secret. I altered the card and took that auto off. I'll show it in my next Mail and Hobby Talk. But yeah, I found both of these cards right here, or they were actually brought to me, which is awesome. So picked them both up. Really cool additions to the Nuggets PC there. And yeah, that covers Mail. So let's jump over to our last topic. And we've got this like Reddit post. This is crazy. I saw this last night. I think somebody on Instagram had posted it. But this woman found that her husband had spent $160,000 investing in baseball cards, and all the while without telling her. Man, this is crazy. We'll link to this Reddit post, but I feel like a lot of this probably went on during the pandemic, even nowadays, where people are in over their heads and stuff like that. It looks like a lot of the stuff that he spent was like on credit cards and whatnot. And man, it just goes to show you got to be careful with this stuff. And I've always been a huge like advocate of having a budget. And I think this is clear indication that a lot of people don't have that mentality going into it. And maybe they get caught up in the hype. Maybe they listen to guys like Jeff Wilson who tells them to buy all this stuff, and the guy didn't know what he was talking about to begin with. So if you look here, this is a comment that I'm just highlighting. It was like further down in the thread. I couldn't find it again, but it says he cashed out about $8,000 of his retirement to buy at least a case of Topps Heritage hobby boxes. This is getting into addiction level stuff. I mean, really, you gotta, we'll throw this little rant thing on the screen again, because I'm going to go into a rant here, but you've got to be careful, guys. You really do. This hobby can be addicting. I've gone down the path of even being addicted myself, even to brakes. I was braking back in the day, and one second you're, having fun in a break, the next minute you're down $1,000. It's easy to happen, especially nowadays. I'm talking like I was joining brakes back in like 2016 and stuff, and even prior to that, nowhere near the prices that people are paying nowadays. But you gotta pump the brakes every once in a while. Have a budget. My budget, as I mentioned, is like 200 max for any one particular car, but I do set like monthly budgets. I do try to only spend, and I deviate from this, I do try to only spend things that I've acquired, or money that I've acquired back from selling cards. But it is good to have a budget, because I believe that like stuff like this is happening way more than we think. I think there's a lot of people in a lot of debt right now from sports cards, because they got into it and didn't really know what they're doing, and they were being influenced or whatever the case was to buy a lot of these cards. You gotta pump the brakes. I really do think that this is important for you to just read through on your own time or whatever, and form your own opinion, of course. But having a budget, being able to stop when there's a problem, is very important. Last thing we're going to get into over here is the hobby boards. I will eventually convince you all to get signed up on the hobby boards if I haven't already, but we're going to be going over a hobby boards thread each week, and this one is awesome, from Abra Calabro, on top 10 cards from your player collection. Awesome thread. He starts off with his Sean Kemp collection, some just phenomenal cards in here, really cool cards from like the 90s, even more recent cards as well. We've got Chris P 57 showing off his Luka Doncic collection, some stellar cards in here. Then we get back into the 90s again, and we have Vidar's 90s cards. Shout out to him, showing off his penny collection. Stellar penny collection here. But yeah, go to this thread, check it out. I'm going to link to it, even if you don't sign up for the hobby boards. I wish you would. But check out the thread. Get signed up over there if you would. I do have my contribution on page 2. There's Chris P again with some awesome Dirk Nowitzki cards. But really, guys, hobby boards, I'm just going to tell you, it's a great place for collectors. If you're like me and you're into collecting, head on over there. We've got a lot of great collectors over. Even if you're into like selling cards, flipping them, whatever, everybody's welcome. And there's going to be no judgment over there. It's all, run, as it says here, run by collectors for collectors. That's really what the site's all about. But yeah, some really great topics over there. Do get signed up. I always forget to mention this, but please, if you like these videos, please consider liking the video, but also subscribing to the channel. It does help me, and it does get a little bit more views on the channel in general when more people like the videos and more subscribers. You're going to be able to see these videos more. So I do encourage you to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Once again, thank you for checking out these videos, and I will catch you on the next one.